hello
Apologize.
everybody, and always fun to talk. And with one of my favorite people from Mast Cell and all the beautiful things that you do.
Thank you. Oh, it's an honor to have you. I say your book, your new book is
Thank you.
incredible. Incredible. I mean, I got
Oh gosh,
chills
that means so
reading it.
much. It's definitely different from the average. I mean, not that different from the average. I don't mean that, but it's definitely like it's very personal, right? I hope people kind of get connected on that level. Oh.
An incredible connection. And, you know, first, for everybody listening, the book is called Unexpected: Finding Resilience Through Functional Medicine, Science, and Faith. And listen, I've read memoirs before, and but the way you presented your story, and this sort of juxtaposition
Yeah.
between you being a patient and you being a doctor, incredible. I can relate to it on
Yeah, you know, as
so many
physicians and women in
levels.
business, I do think there's a lot of things that we all are, we all have in common, and we don't always talk about it, right? Like how medical education can be so brutal,
Exactly.
and then how do we deal with our own suffering and illness as a physician and supposed to be a healer? And so you're right. I've always thought, it's so, all of us in medicine, or really any women anywhere who are dealing with professional careers, we kind of feel like we have to have it all together. And on the outside, it looks pretty good, but the truth is, like, we all have struggles. We all have and it's funny with functional integrative medicine, most of the time we come to it when there's someone we love or ourselves that we're like, we don't know where else to turn, like there's a mystery, especially when conventional medicine fails us, right?
Exactly. But
Yes.
but you've had quite a journey, and you've quite a far, and you are such an inspiration to all women, but yes, to physicians, but to all women who are really struggling, and all patients who are really struggling to find answers. Your faith really is very, very powerful, really. And I love that message. I love your message throughout the book. And I don't think I've ever been moved by a memoir the way I've been moved by yours. And maybe because I know you too,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm so proud of the work that you've done,
Oh, Dr.
but
Dempsey,
also
that
just
means
because I think
so
it's just
much to me. Like, you have no idea. Thank you for your kindness and your words, and it means a lot.
an thank you. Thank you. So is there anything that you want to share with the audience? Any other messages, any other thing that, you feel compelled that maybe you could include in the book, or that you want to make sure that, people understand?
Yeah, and this is perfect because I'm at a place I can stop and so I
Perfect.
think the biggest thing, if you're listening or you haven't gotten the book or taken a peek at it or whatever, we all have a journey. We all have a story. And my goal was that people would see themselves somewhere in that story. And fortunately or unfortunately for me, the divine has had me on a journey of experiential learning. So cancer at 25, Crohn's at 26, get over that. And through that, I had 3 stepchildren, married at 21. I mean, just lots and lots of things, going through medical school with 3 stepchildren. And all beautiful things, right? But I feel like those lessons that I've learned and shared are universal. They're not just me. It's not just about me. It's these universal lessons on, like, how do we deal with difficult diagnoses and suffering and the unexpected. I love the title because it's like everything about our life when we have these things that are unexpected, and it's, do we have the resources to become resilient? I believe all of us, all your listeners, yourself, myself included, we all have the ability to be resilient. And my hope and goal in the book was to just story by story by story give tools, because we all have suffering. We all have things that come unexpected. And how do we deal with those? How our mindset is around those make all the difference of if we survive and overcome, or if we become bitter and disheartened by the suffering, which is easy to do. So my goal was just to inspire, and I'm hopefully got some real practical stuff in there too, as well as how to fight cancer, how to deal with autoimmunity, how to deal with mold. There's a whole chapter on mold and mold toxicity, right? Which is so common. I bet you, I mean, are you just seeing this over and over in patients with chronic illness like me?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every chapter in your book was just another chapter
Yeah.
in my life on some level, and what I see in my patients. I mean, I've had mold illness myself, so I related to so much. Look, I think that on a professional level, our own journey with health obviously makes us better, I think, at helping patients. You know, I think I always look at, also I have that plant on, like, here's a reason this happened. I'm going to take that and go with it. But how do you know, what's your advice to patients who have been dealing with chronic illness and they don't see the path forward and not getting better? You know, what's your approach with patients like that? How do they change their mindset when they're just feeling
such a great question, because you and I see so many people like this that are suffering, and even you and I might be doing all the right things, and there's still, you know, maybe little ups and downs, but there's a lot of people with just chronic fatigue, chronic illness, chronic mast cell activation, you know, you name it, and it can be really disheartening. I think the thing is, always in suffering and difficulties, there are important lessons and learnings, and I don't want to make light of it, because I know there's some people who can barely get out of bed, and you know, once a week they're able to get out of bed and do one thing, and that's the joy of their week. But first of all, there's always people who are suffering greater than ourselves. And when we have that perspective, or when we start to do, it may be writing a letter to someone to encourage them from your bed. It might be that small of a thing but when you start to shift the focus off yourself onto the other people out there that are suffering, or the little ways within your capacity that you can encourage or love other people, it really does transform our own suffering, because we start to get the focus off of ourselves and to focus on other people. And then the second thing is, I think one of the things that has allowed me to overcome, you know, cancer and Crohn's and all these things is deep inside. I call it like it's a mental fortitude. And all of us can have this, but it's the idea that you believe in what's possible. For me, that's my faith, and it does connect to a higher power. But if you're out there and you don't even believe in God or don't have the same beliefs, it's okay. You can still believe in something greater than yourself, a greater purpose and meaning in your experiences and in your life. And that grounding, that like anchor, can really keep you afloat amidst the really, really difficult things in life, because otherwise nothing makes sense, right? And we're all terminal, so it can get really, really depressing. But if you either have a belief in something greater than yourself, and it's funny because like even Dan Buettner he's done all the work on the blue zones, which are all the areas in the world that have the highest percentage of centenarians, or those that lived over 100. And one thing common to all of these people is they all have, I mean, there's Buddhist, there's Christian, there's all different types of backgrounds and faiths, but they all have a greater purpose and meaning in their life. And they all have connections to other people. So with whatever your capacity is today, whatever illness you're suffering from, or whatever capacity, if you can connect to others, try to love and serve others and get outside of yourself, and then try to believe that there is some purpose and meaning. And so often in the midst of the darkness, it's hard to see that there's a light, but there's always, it's like in the worst, when my first thing happened, which was cancer, I remember, this too shall pass. That was the thing that went over and over in my head. And I knew, I was like, okay, you know, this isn't forever. And in the moment, it feels like it's forever, right?
Yeah, sure, for sure. What a great, amazing perspective. And listen, I think that, you know, you've learned, you came from a background, you know, it sounds like you had that spirituality from a young age, and you've developed it over time. I think some people don't have that, and it's more difficult to find, but it's definitely possible, right? And it's not about, it's not about a specific belief in God. It's not about a specific belief in a specific religion necessarily, but that could work too. It's really understanding that there's something else that that you need to believe in to get you through it. So I think,
I love Lisa said, this too shall pass. Yes, Lisa, exactly. You got to hang on to something. And again, I never want to make light of true suffering, because it is hard and it is difficult. And when you know, whether it's a chronic fatigue or mast cell or any of these things, chronic Lyme disease, we both treat a ton of that. These things are really difficult and really painful. I start the book, in fact, the preface of the book, it still almost makes me cry. It was a 22-year-old young woman with mast cell activation and Lyme disease, and she passed away. And I wanted to put that in there, because so often as healers, like, we want to be the people who can help everyone, right? And we can't help everyone. And there's some people who, you know, don't make it. And it's hard to face that. But in her last days, she had a greater purpose and meaning for a Lyme Foundation. And she created something that was just amazing. And so out of that, even in the midst of her suffering and her death, something greater like blossomed out of that experience. And I love talking about that because number one, it's universal that we face those fears and those things, but the fact that her mother and that she herself made a massive difference even despite her facing her own mortality.
Right. And it's not about, and I want to be clear, I see some of the comments, coming in about, what do you do if you've been suffering for 10 years? And it's not just about, families trying to get them to get better.
Right.
They're telling them just, mind over matter. And that's not what we're saying. It's not mind over matter.
It is not.
You're,
That's why I always want to find that line
right?
between, I mean, I can be kind of Pollyanna-esque, but the truth is like the reality is difficult. I'm like, I never want to diminish the suffering, but I also want to say, our mind, our subconscious is geared to look for what we look for. This is, again, the reason unexpected, you could go to the full title, which would probably be Unexpected Miracles. If we're looking for the silver lining, looking for the positive, looking for the lessons, looking for the transformation, and it can be in our relationships, in our own life, in our own health, we will often find something that we don't expect, and that's the unexpected. And we have to believe that that's possible. But when we do focus our mind on what else is possible, or looking for the good, literally our subconscious will go to work and find things to be joyful about, find things to be thankful for. And no matter who you are, how much you're suffering, there's always something you can be thankful for. And maybe we focus on that instead of focusing on the difficulties. And again, it just shifts our perspective a little bit.
Right. Right, exactly. Which, of course, is very, very difficult to do. And we recognize, right? But I think it's a beautiful message, and it's taken you far. And look at where you are now, with you help. How you're helping others through what.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing that we get to be healers and help people and encourage people. And then there's the practical stuff, like if you've got mold-related illness and what to do. And in the book, we talk about basically like for everything from how do you know if you have mold-related illness, what kind of tests might you be doing? If you do find it, where do you start? How do you detox? How do you deal with mast cell activation? How do you deal with infections? And the sidebars, there's all kinds of practical tips and tricks and things on just, so you can either just read the memoir or ignore the sidebars. If you just want the pearls, you can go the sidebars and ignore the memoir, or you can read both.
No, and I think those sidebars actually were very, very powerful, and you explained things so well. I mean, one of the challenges as a doctor is really being able to, we can talk amongst ourselves and we can use complex way to think about it, but you made it so easy to understand. And I thought, I was reading some of that and I thought, I don't know why I didn't think about explaining it in that way. So I think any and take it in, it's not so much medical lingo, stuff, really basic, real information that everyone needs to know about. And that's the
I do like to do practical, because it's like, say, the toxic load, like a toxic bucket that gets filled and spills over the top. And the common things that we see with toxic load are cancer, autoimmunity, neurodegenerative diseases. So it's real common to see these kinds of things. And when we think about it as toxic load, we're like, oh yeah, we just unload the bucket. It makes it much easier to understand what to do about it.
I think that's an important point in terms of thinking about, we live in this very toxic world. Think about the toxicity that you were born into, or near, and what you've had to figure that out, right? So we unfortunately live in a really toxic world, and sometimes that feels so overwhelming. I think about it as I talk to my patients, and I think about, sometimes it just sounds depressing. It sounds like, oh, what are we going to do? What do we do? It's just the world we live in is going to be like this, and we're all screwed, and our kids are screwed, and whatever. Sometimes it's very easy to go there, but I'm like you. I'm an optimist. I'd like to think that there are people out there who are working on legislation and other things to help, right, reduce the toxin load in our environment. And then we have so many things that we can do. I know they're sometimes small. They seem inconsequential, but it does help, right? Picking, type of cosmetics, picking the right types of care products, picking those things. They sound like, no, is that really going to make a difference?
It does. And I always like to start with simple, clean air, clean water, clean food. Like, that's something that we all can do something about. Clean air, you can get an air filter, make sure your furnace filter is highest MERV rating possible. Clean water, whether you have an expensive reverse osmosis system or a simple pitcher in your fridge, making sure you have filtered water, avoid plastic water bottles, and clean food. Again, those kind of basic things. So trying to avoid things like, PCBs and chemicals and additives, and trying to get real food as close to home as possible, organic and non-GMO. And again, these things, they don't have to be overwhelming, and starting there is just a huge, huge piece of the puzzle, because you're not putting things into your bucket.
Exactly. I mean, look, you could pick one thing,
Yeah.
and even one thing, right, will then grow into another thing. It could just be that you buy a stainless steel water bottle and you carry it
Exactly.
and you fill it up
Exactly.
instead of the Coca-Cola bottle, whatever. But you know what? If you had to, because you didn't have your water bottle,
Right,
and you were
right. You don't
thirsty,
prefer
it's okay, right?
Or like if I'm eating out, I mean, I prefer wild salmon because farm salmon is so toxic, but sometimes you don't have a choice. And so if I don't have a choice, and that's my food, I'm going to have, just, you kind of do the best you can, and travel.
I think that's what the audience wants to hear.
No.
Are we perfect? Because we know.
I love that you say that, because that's so true. Like, you do the best you can, but you're right. You still have these things that are not perfect.
Exactly. So is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today? Any other topic?
No, just if you need
words of
some
wisdom?
encouragement, I hope you'll get a copy. And if you hang on for a minute or two, I'm going to give away a free copy. It's funny, here I am. We got the wrong time, which is so fine, but I'm in my car. I wasn't planning that. But in my back seat here, I'll show you. Hang on. I'm going to grab that. Here we go. So in my back seat, I got unexpected. So here it is. So I'm going to give away a copy from my car on the road to any of you. So all you have to do, if you want a copy, a free copy, it'll be signed. If you just tell me what name you want me to put on there, you can win a free copy of my book. It's unexpected. Again, I'll hold it up. Wasn't planning to be in my car today, but I am, and it's working perfectly. So here's the copy. Here's the book. No, it's so good. I know. I actually love this. Tanya is so spontaneous and actually perfectly authentic, right? I don't have a chance to get ready or anything. It's even better. I love it. I'm so happy to be here with you. Really, truly. So anyone who's still on, you want to bring the free copy? Yes, I see Mimi, Lisa. Lisa, all you have to do is, if you're not following me, you have to follow. Oops, sorry, that's the back side of the book. Here we go. So just, you have to follow me, and then you just put a direct message to me, unexpected book or free book, whatever you want to do. Unexpected book, direct message. I will, oh, hi, Lisa. Hi, Sarah. Hi. I will, how about this? I've got such a great response from all you guys. I'm going to give away 2 copies. 2 copies. So just follow me and put a direct message to me, unexpected book. I'll pick someone randomly in the next 24 hours, and I will contact you through message, get your address, and I'll mail it out signed. So, yep.
Oh, that's so.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
thank you for taking the time to have me on, and thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully it's helpful and encouraging. And no matter what you're suffering, whatever you're dealing with today, just look for the beauty, look for the silver lining, look for the good, because there's always something magical there if we look. And it doesn't take away from the difficulties, but just sending you all lots and lots of love and support, and hope for a great, healthy future.
Thank you, Dr. Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much.
Much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye. Thank you all. We'll see you soon. I got to figure out.